The most intense.
Come on!
The most horrifying. It's in your blood. Resident Evil 3, Nemesis. The nightmare continues, only from Capcom.
Alright, let me take you back to when I was 13 years old.
So some people are asking me, what am I doing in the middle of the night? So my response is, I'm playing the Lego Star Wars The Ultimate Saga game.
Sitting in my room with a PlayStation VR headset strapped to my face, I was ready to experience Resident Evil 7 for the first time. And when I tell you that I absolutely myself, I'm not exaggerating. That was the start of my twisted love affair with the Resident Evil series, and especially Jill Valentine. Now, this series is more than just a collection of horror games. It's one of the most iconic horror franchises of all time, and for a damn good reason. Developed by Capcom, a game studio that knows a thing or two about scaring the crap out of people. The Resident Evil series has been serving up horror goodness since 1996, yes, all the way in 1996. And yes, the first game actually dropped for the first ever PlayStation. Sure, this series had its ups and downs over the years. From the highs of its early days and the pretty weird decisions that we all try to forget. But it has always managed to bounce back, keeping a rabid loyal fanbase which is hooked on its unique brand of horror. Then, like a blessing and a curse rolled into one thing, the remakes came along. And trust me, nothing divides the Resident Evil community more than the goddamn remakes. Personally, I love the remakes, especially the Resident Evil 3 remake, which by the way is gonna be the main focus of today's video. And yes, I know, that remake is like the mentally ill stepchild of the Resident Evil series. It's the one that the OG fans love to hate on. They argue that it's not lore accurate, for example, which is pretty goddamn hilarious in the context of Resident Evil, considering how many plot holes that universe has. And also, of course, they claim that it's not scary enough. Really. I mean, really, compared to the 1998 game, it's not scary? Tell me about it. But today, I'm here to prove to you that the remakes are actually pretty awesome. And if you're still crying about them and complaining how they are bad, maybe you're just a bitter keyboard warrior that is sitting in his mom's basement, and you should get out of the past and, maybe move with the current tide. So, buckle up, kids. Don't forget to smash the subscribe button and the like button. And let's dive into the dark, zombie-infested streets of Racoon City.
This pandemic has spread faster than any disease in modern history.
Angry mobs roam the city, commercial buildings. Authorities are bracing for more rioting tonight.
He was knocked unconscious.
Citywide emergency.
Resident Evil 2 Remake is a game that combines the style of 1980s detective movies and comic books of the time, in my opinion.
It says with pulp.
You like it with pulp?
Not this much. I like the one that says some pulp. The fuck was that for?
Think supervillains, agents, silly monsters, and detective plots. Many things from the Resident Evil 3 remake really remind me of the Goosebumps book. You remember that one you read as a kid, right? With the monsters and horror stories? Yeah, like they have a very similar vibe, right? This mix of old and new creates a unique atmosphere, where classic survival horror meets a more modern cinematic experience. At its core, Resident Evil 3 is a reimagining of the 1999 classic, revamping its story, characters, and environments with brand new graphics. Resident Evil 3 is set just before, during, and after the events of Resident Evil 2. It's a little bit of a crossover situation. The story unfolds in Racoon City, which is now fully engulfed in a zombie outbreak, which was caused by the mysterious Umbrella Corporation.
Commitment, honesty, integrity, these are the core values that create the foundation for Umbrella.
Hello, and welcome to the Los Pollos Hermanos family. My name is Gustavo, but you can call me Gus.
We follow Jill Valentine, a former member of the elite STARS unit, as she fights her way through the city, overrun by the undead. But there's a catch. She's being relentlessly hunted by Nemesis, a towering, seemingly unstoppable creature created by the Umbrella Corporation.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Whose sole mission is to eliminate any survivors that could possibly expose their dirty secrets. Along the way, Jill teams up with Carlos Oliveira, a member of the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service.
I'm with the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, UBCS for short.
Who might just be the best hope for her surviving this night.
It's alright, you go on ahead. I'm not gonna die on you, leave you in a cold, cruel, Carlosless world.
You need to find this scientist.
Together, they uncover a conspiracy that goes way deeper than they could ever imagine, all while dodging threats every corner from the living and the undead. One of the standout reasons why the Resident Evil 3 remake is so great, like all of the recent remakes, is its tight pacing. These modern remakes typically take from 6 to 8 hours to complete, which might seem a bit short at first glance. You might think, is the game short because the developers were just lazy? But that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, there are 3 solid reasons why this shorter runtime actually makes sense and enhances the entire experience. First off, these remakes are based on older games, and back in the day, technology was a lot more limited. Game developers simply didn't have the capacity to make games as long as today's epic open-world adventures. One of the main reasons why video games became longer over the years is, well, memory. Modern hardware can handle modern amounts of data.
And modern problems require modern solutions.
Back then, the cartridges for the PlayStation 1 could only hold up to 600 megabytes, which is tiny by today's standard. I mean, you wouldn't even be able to fit a loading screen into one of those. Now you might be thinking, why don't the developers just add more content to make the game longer? Well, I beg to disagree. Stretching the game out would not do it any good. And as a matter of fact, it would ruin the entire experience for multiple reasons. Classic Resident Evil games and modern ones are known for being tight, focused, and straight to the point. Playing them is like watching a blockbuster movie with one uninterrupted storyline. It's all about tense action, sharp pacing, and a sense of urgency. No tedious side missions, no endless exploration, and no unnecessary upgrades. Just pure, distilled survival horror experience. Oh yeah, well, plus the Resident Evil speedrun community is diabolical.
Oh man, what the fuck is you doing, cuz? Fuck! 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 Fuck, man! Fuck, man! As soon as I fucking came in this... Fuck! Fuck! Came in this fucking room and everything went fucking bad. Fuck this shit, man. Fuck.
Yeah, I get it. Resident Evil games are extremely linear, but that's what makes them so compelling. That linearity keeps the story tight and constantly keeps you on the edge of your seat, while moving from one adrenaline-pumping moment to another. And here's the last reason why the pacing is so perfectly tuned. It's accessibility. And no, I'm not talking about accessibility for players with disabilities. I'm talking about time accessibility. Let's face it, not everyone has hours upon hours to dedicate to gaming. Many of us have busy lives, jobs, family, and countless responsibilities.
Well, I've never told you that I can't throw a boomerang, but it's true. See? I told you.
I mean, after all, time is money. The entire game can be completed in just 1 week by playing like 1 hour a day. And most importantly, you're getting the full experience without any filler. It's a compact and thrilling ride that respects your time, all while delivering an amazing horror experience without any unnecessary Now let's talk about one of the most genius elements of the Resident Evil's game design. The classic big guy chasing you narrative. It's a trope that has become super popular in modern horror games. But let's be honest, Capcom did it first, and they did it best. Years before the competition even had a clue. I mean, nearly every Resident Evil game has some kind of buffed up dude or a piping hot MILF sometimes chasing you around. And they don't just leave it at that. No, Capcom decides to crank the tension up to 11 by surrounding you with other enemies all at the same time. It's not enough that a giant unkillable monster is already making you shit bricks. Oh no, they add a bunch of killable enemies just to screw with you while you're getting by the giant monster. It's like trying to juggle flaming chainsaws while being shot in the back by someone. The game forces you to multitask like a maniac. You're taking out zombies and suddenly there is this unstoppable behemoth right up your ass, who can only be staggered with rare weapons. And then, when you think you finally got a second to breathe, Resident Evil decides to hit you with yet another level of chaos. Puzzles. Yes, puzzles. You'd think they give you a break, right? Wrong. Now, the puzzles aren't the problem, because thank God, the game pauses while you solve them. But good luck finding the puzzle cues, passwords, documents, and secret messages when you've got killable enemies swarming you, a relentless tyrant stomping after you, and sometimes a timer ticking down, adding a whole new level of stress. It's like Capcom sat down and asked themselves, how can we make this experience as anxiety-inducing as humanly possible?
Just add puzzles, bro.
Of course, let's not forget about resource management, which is an important factor of every Resident Evil game. You essentially die in 4 taps, which means you need to keep healing sprays and herbs on you in your tiny inventory at all times.
I'm aware that a lot of you niggas don't like me, but I don't care what.
Oh yeah, and don't forget about ammo, which is also rare. And also, don't forget to leave some space for the mission-related objects. This limitation on your inventory and the constant prioritization and organization of your resources add another layer of tension into the horror mix. And don't even get me started on the enemies like the Lickers. These guys can't see shit but have perfect hearing, and they hit like a truck. Oh, and did I mention that they spawn in groups of 2 or 3? Yeah, have fun with that. Resident Evil uses its complex, labyrinthine environments, the twisting hallways, the locked up doors, and the dead ends, plus all these different enemy types to keep you on the edge of your seat, gripping your controller like it's your first time having sex with a girl. Now, I'll admit, the remakes slightly spoil the tension that the original games had. I get it, but where they lack in constant dread, they make up for with some of the most beautifully horrific character and environment designs we've ever seen. The blood looks wetter, the zombies look gnarlier, and the atmosphere is even more immersive. But hold up, we're gonna save the old versus new debate for later. Because trust me, there are more layers of complexity to it than you might think.
Capcom.
Alright, since we've talked about the big boys of Resident Evil, I think it's time to give them a rating. First up, we've got Mr. X, an absolute classic in the Resident Evil franchise. This guy is a fantastic villain. In the older games, he was more like Freddy Fazbear, popping out of nowhere like... That's it, bye-bye! Bazinga! And throwing hands before you even had time to think. But in the remake, he's a whole new beast. A relentless stalker who is always one step behind you, no matter where you are or what you're doing. And that constant anxiety of wondering, oh my god, where is he? And all while listening to those ominous footsteps. But is he the scariest? Nah, not really. He's good at being creepy with his slow, unbothered walk and towering, unstoppable appearance. But let's be honest, the guy barely runs. Probably because he's got a heart condition from all of the damn steroids. If you're not trapped in a dead end or surrounded by lesser enemies, he's pretty easy to avoid. Plus, let's not forget the fact that he's rocking that classy detective trench coat, which weirdly humanizes him a bit too much. You know, he's like a pissed off bodybuilder having a roid rage episode. That's probably the reason why that dude is bald as hell.
Damn, I messed up. We gotta go bald.
Still, he fits perfectly into the game's vibe and brings that classic Resident Evil tension. So, I'm giving this trenbolone-infused monster an 8 out of 10. He's earned it. Now, let's talk about Jack Baker, my introduction to the Resident Evil series. This old crackhead scared the crap out of me back in the day. But looking at him now, with a lot more experience under my belt, I've realized that he's not that terrifying. Jack has a similar dynamic to Mr. X, but he's got more personality. I love it when he shouts things like,
"You thought you'd just slip out before dinner was done? I'm gonna squash you like a bug." Hope Marguerite didn't hear that.
Ethan! Ethan! Ethan!
Those voice lines really add a layer of immersion and realism to his character. But the problem with Jack is, well, he just looks like your average crackhead from Chicago.
Ma'am, I think I got his insurance card. Hold on for a minute, ma'am.
There's nothing particularly terrifying about his appearance. Sure, when he jumps at you in a corridor, you might spill your drink.
Welcome to the family, son.
But it's not because his sheer presence is invoking fear, like Mr. X does. It's because he's got a massive fire axe in his hands. Jack Baker feels like a classic horror movie villain. A batshit crazy serial killer with goofy one-liners.
Nice car, Ethan. Where'd you learn to drive?
But because he looks like the guy I see sleeping under the trash can on my way to uni every day, I just can't give him a high rating.
Lord is good. Michael Jordan.
Oh my God,
He is good today.
Hold up, boy, you can
Say less.
go thank you, Jesus, for saving it.
Sorry, Jack, but our beloved crack addict gets a 7 out of 10. And now, we come to Lady Dimitrescu. Oh boy, what a MILF. This tall vampire lady takes the best parts of Mr. X and Jack and mixes them into one of the most memorable villains in recent memory. She's got hell of a presence, towering over everyone with those seductive voice lines.
But later, well, there will be enough for everyone.
And an AI that is more intelligent than Mr. X and Jack. But here's the problem. Fear. She doesn't make you scared. If anything, she makes you horny.
Stupid man thing! Ah!
I'm not gonna lie, I spent more time chasing her around the castle like I was the villain than she chased me.
So we finally meet.
Goo goo gaga. I want milk.
Man, I was just trying to get a look at those absolute honkers she got.
Why can't I have Mama's milk? It's a simple request.
Look, she's a bad monster, but she's a damn good character. There are some scary moments with her though, like when she cuts off your hand in some cryptic castle basement.
Ah, shit!
Like I'd let you get away.
But when she stabs you with those claws, it's not fear I'm feeling, I'm afraid. It's something entirely different. And the castle environment doesn't really do her any favors either. It's so huge that she's just easy to outrun. And there's not enough zombies or lesser enemies to make escaping from her a challenge. It's like the developers knew exactly what they were doing with her, leaning hard into her seductive appeal rather than the monstrous side. I give my wifey a 6 out of 10. Not because she's scary, but because she's just too damn sexy.
Guys, this is what dying feels like. Gonna catch me riding dirty.
And finally, the big boy we've all been waiting for. Nemesis. My absolute favorite villain of the series. This guy is the extra large nightmare fuel that the Resident Evil fans crave. In the original games, Nemesis was an absolute terror, faster than the player, and armed with a rocket launcher, ready to blow everything in his path to hell.
Oh, they're going to have to glue you back together in hell!
I always saw him as the next level up from Mr. X, an experimental prototype that went horribly wrong. This 2-meter hunk of meat is what happens when you take Mr. X and give him even more steroids with some synthol on top. Remember how I said that Mr. X probably has heart issues from all of the steroids he's taking? Well, Nemesis doesn't have that issue because he's got what I call the bioweapon pacemaker. And yeah, the dude runs like a freight train. He screams, he growls, and he throws a lot of punches. And did I mention that he's got a rocket launcher and a flamethrower? This guy is ready to annihilate anything in his path. And the boss fights with him are some of the hardest I've ever experienced in a Resident Evil game. And when he transforms, holy shit. He goes from a scary humanoid to this grotesque, horrifying mass that looks something out of a Lovecraftian nightmare. By the end, he's practically the wall of flesh from Terraria.
Come on! Next time, take the fucking hit!
The new design elevates him to a whole new level of fear. He's got all these caution stickers just absolutely plastered all over his body. A heart monitor strapped to his chest, and that face. That goddamn face. Unlike Mr. X, I don't even try to fight with Nemesis. I see him and I run. End of discussion.
Ọlọ́run ìwọ. What up?
The dude still gives me nightmares sometimes. 10 out of 10, no Diddy. I'm not going to dive into every single freak and monster, because I don't want this to turn into some slop video essay. So, we just focused on the most memorable ones.
The triggering system has now been activated. All researchers and guards should be covered immediately. Unlock all rooms for evacuation.
Now it's time to dive into the final and probably the most controversial part of this video. Nostalgia. And let me say it. The Resident Evil remakes are great.
So let me get this straight. You think that the remakes are not shit?
I do. And I'm tired of pretending it's not. Comedy is subjective, Murray. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, I said it. They are fantastic. And if you still think that the older games are better, it's time for a reality check. Look, I get it. The original Resident Evil games were legendary for their time. But let's be honest, if you booted them up now, they'd feel a bit clunky, outdated, and borderline unplayable. You'd realize that maybe, just maybe, they kind of suck by today's standards. Here's the thing, people complain that the remakes aren't scary and that the enemies move too slowly, or that the chase sequences have been dumbed down to press W to win. But let's get real for a second. Games have changed, and so have you. You've grown, man.
Dude, what the f***? Why are you f***ing here, man? You're so old. Where's your wife? Go home to your family, dude.
Modern games require modern solutions.
And modern problems require modern solutions.
The original games were built on a completely different set of mechanics. If Capcom just gave you a shot-for-shot remake with shiny new graphics, you wouldn't even want to play that shit for 30 minutes. Because the nostalgia goggles would shatter. The original games scared you because you were a wide-eyed 10-year-old hiding under your blanket. Now, you're probably pushing 30, expecting to get that same spine-tingling feeling, but it just doesn't come.
Oh, I'm gonna come.
Do not come.
Should I do it?
Do not come.
I'm gonna do it!
And it's not because the remakes are not scary. It's because you've changed, dude. It's wild how nostalgia can screw with your perception. Yeah, I agree, some things from back in the day were better, that's true, but not everything. And that's especially true for some parts of gaming. You see, your own perception of time is messing with you. You're chasing a feeling that's been gone for years. The problem isn't the remakes, it's you. I hate to say it, but you're the one who's stuck, clinging to this impossible standard of wanting to feel the same way you did when you were a kid. And this doesn't just apply to Resident Evil, it applies to all gaming and nostalgia related things. I had a similar experience recently. I fired up Super Mario Odyssey, expecting it to blow my mind like Super Mario Galaxy did when I was younger. And guess what? It wasn't nearly as magical. At first, I thought, damn, maybe Nintendo fell off or something. But then it hit me. No, I just grew out of it. I've changed, and so has my taste. So don't expect Capcom or any game developer to bring back your childhood. They're not wizards, they're just people making video games. And honestly, they're doing a pretty good damn job with these remakes. But hey, I'm not here to shit all over the old heads. Trust me, I get it. Some remakes are downright dumpster fires, like the GTA San Andreas disaster, for example. Or others that were completely unnecessary, like the Last of Us 2 remake. Like, why? It's true that back in the day, video games were a different breed. More hardcore, less forgiving. No constant hand-holding saves. More replayability and the test of patience and skill. But guess what? Gaming is moving forward, and so is Resident Evil. And that's not just okay. That's fucking awesome. Capcom managed to pull something off that a lot of developers can't. They captured the soul of the original games, while upgrading the mechanics to fit a modern audience. They didn't just slap a fresh coat of paint on an old house. They remodeled it without losing the charm that made it home in the first place. Sure, some things got downgraded. Maybe the scares aren't as terrifying as there used to be before. But let's be honest, other aspects have significantly upgraded. The fluid controls, the stunning visuals, and the deeper storytelling. All of it adds layers that weren't even possible back then. So here's the deal. Let's embrace the synergy of old and new. Let's not split into two hostile camps of the new kids versus the old heads. Instead, let's appreciate the insane amount of effort and passion to breathe new life into a game that many of us hold close to our hearts. They didn't have to do it, but they did it anyways, and they did it damn well. Because in the end, whether you're an OG fan or a newcomer, Resident Evil is just doing what it does best. Getting under your skin, keeping you on the edge, and making you think twice about turning off the lights. So let's just all take a step back and drop the pitchforks and realize that like any great story, it's all about evolution. Because the past is a place to learn from, not a place to live. So, keep your eyes forward, keep gaming, and remember, the fear is only as real as we want it to be.